Good afternoon, ladies and gents. Thank you for joining me. Another Mr. Businessman stream. I know that you were all worried and definitely freaking out about the fact that I wasn't on at 10 o'clock this morning. I apologise profusely for that. But these are the trials and tribulations of being a parent. Sometimes you have to take the bullet and let the other parent go to bed for a little bit if they've been up all night. So, I hope you forgive me for abandoning you slightly. But here I am. And we're going to go through it just as we would. We've got some really interesting stuff to do today. I think that people underestimate the interest in some bits of business, and I think if you are a business student or if you're a business person and you're not that interested in business marketing, in business production, in business, the whys and wherefores of business. It can be it's a shame really, because there are some really interesting bits about it, and I think that's of all subjects, but I think business is a particularly interesting subject. So buckle yourself in, because today we're going to be talking about quality and the various bits about it. There's quite a lot of just like moving parts on this, so quite a few new topics, a few new theories that you might not have heard of before, or if you have, brilliant bit of revision for you, because we've got to make sure that we absolutely nail these production ways of production and ways of controlling quality, ways of improving quality. Not really sure what's been happening in the news, because usually I don't bother checking it unless I'm on here. So I'll be having a look at that at the end of the stream as well. All right. So we're gonna jump straight into it and get into some quality. Here we go. So here we go. Let's have a look at the learning objectives. What we're going to do today, we're going to explain what is meant by quality. I know it sounds like a bit of a silly thing, but it's quite a difficult question to do sometimes. Analyze the importance of quality to a business. So is it actually an important thing? Remember, we want to be putting that AO4 in there, that evaluation skill, really building that up for yourself and be able to write about that competently. So analyze the importance of it and weigh it up for different scenarios and things like that. We want to explain the difference between quality control and quality assurance. If you've done this topic before, you'll know that they are quite different, but they are sometimes wrongly interchangeable, and people make mistakes in the exam with these things. Next, we've got the explain the concept of total quality management, which is TQM, and the ways in which it can be linked into achieving quality consistently. That includes quality change, empowerment, monitoring, teamwork, zero defects, quality circles and benchmarking. So quite a lot of moving parts, as I said, lots of little bits of things that we've just got to recap, because it's quite easy to forget some of these things, really important bits of kit. And evaluate the importance of quality for a business and its stakeholders as well. All right. So, as we always do, we're going to explain, we're going to analyse, we're going to evaluate. So we get progressively harder in the technique we're using, with evaluation being the most difficult, the thing which they're going to give you the most marks for in the exam. All right, and don't forget as well, if you've noticed, that there's the stakeholder thing, as we always talk about stakeholders and the importance of stakeholders in this one. All right, so what is quality then? So what do you understand quality to be? When you get a product, when you get a service, and you say that's good quality, what do you actually mean? Well, in this regard, in the terms of the definition, in terms of the textbook definition of this, we say a quality product is one that meets the customer requirements and is fit for purpose. Right. Now, I think it's really important to raise at this point, because I remember I raised it in class when we were talking about these things, and it's the fact of something that is cheap can still be good quality. And it's an interesting concept, because I know that we said with psychological pricing and the sort of psychology that goes around, making products and things like that, that sometimes we can make it feel like if it's cheap, then it must be rubbish, or it must be a bad quality product, which isn't true. Because if we look at this, a quality product is one that meets customer requirements and is fit for purpose. So even if you buy something from the pound shop, even if you spend a couple of pence on something very, very, very cheap, if it meets your demands, if it meets your requirements, if it satisfies the whatever it is that you want it to do, and it's fit for purpose, then it is good quality. That is a quality product at the end of the day. And now there's variations in terms of how much quality there is, isn't there? And you will definitely have a different opinion than I will in terms of what good quality is. because some people value other things over other. We talk about brand, we talk about usability of product, we talk about the experience and things like that. And some people really feel passionate about the fact that certain bits of these things are more important than others to them. But that's okay. That's not a problem. We're not. That's not an issue. That's not something that we're going to have to worry about, or something that we need to think. Oh well, if you think differently than me, then that's an issue. As a good business person, we need to be able to understand it from different perspectives, don't we? All right. So we want to produce quality, ideally. We want to continuously produce quality, because if we continuously produce quality, we can ensure that our customers are getting a good service, that they're able to... we have that thing called relationship marketing now, don't we? That we try and nurture a relationship between consumer and supplier. Something which we never really used to have to do. I think in the past, when people were just happy with you buying a one-time purchase thing, if you go sort of pre-World War II, they made products that last forever. If you made a mobile phone pre-World War II, I know that you wouldn't, but if you'd had, that mobile phone would have lasted you forever. And that's the problem to an extent with the consumerism that we've got now, because what that means is it's kind of like a paradox of producing good quality while simultaneously not producing so much quality that the person never needs to buy another one, because that can be an issue, can't it? Now, if you remember, businesses do a thing where they purposely build in your products going obsolete, and that's called planned obsolescence. So if you get a a technological product, a smartphone is a good example, they will build in either software updates that won't work with it, so you will have to buy a new one eventually. They can build in faults in it. They can actually build it into it. And the idea isn't to physically build in issues with your product that will show themselves after an amount of time, but by the same point, you don't want to make a product that someone's only ever going to have to buy one of. I've got a MacBook right here. This will probably do me for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, 6 or 7 years, something like that. I had my other one for ages. They're brilliant bits of kit. They last ages, right? That's if it's as good quality as it was last time, because it meets my requirements. And it satisfies what I want it to do. It's enabled me to do all this, which is brilliant, isn't it? I'm not saying other products couldn't do that, but this is spot on for what I need it for. But by the same point, my old MacBook, the battery swelled in it and broke, so it snapped the keyboard inside the machine. And now, I would say, as a consumer, that I was annoyed that Apple didn't tell me that was going to happen, that they should have told me, they should have warned me. But by having... I know that some of you might say, well, look, quality is about customer service and things like that, but certain things will happen. That's just a scientific thing that happens, that batteries do swell over time, and they're not going to last forever. But it's infuriating, isn't it? It was upsetting. I didn't really have £1,200 to go and drop on a new MacBook. I didn't want to. I'd already bought one, and I didn't really want to go out and spend another one. But that doesn't mean I didn't get good quality, because ultimately it did last me a long time. I expect this one to last me a long time. Just while we're talking about planned obsolescence, though, what's another way that Apple, specifically, just to have a jab at Apple for a second, how's another way that they actually get people... how do they build that into it? One of the biggest things that they do is they change the design of the product, and they are... I have read on our website the other day that Apple are due to refresh the MacBook Pro and the iMac. So in very, very soon you will see a full refresh, because if you look at the MacBook Pros that they've got now, they've not been... they've been looking pretty much the same. We know what a MacBook Pro looks like. It looks the same, and it's been looking like this for the last sort of, 2016, 2015. So we're coming up to with 5 or 6 years sort of time now. So it's time for a refresh. And what they can do by doing that, they do it on the phones more than they do with the laptops, is they can maximize the efficiency of production by using the same design for years and years and years, but then simultaneously, when they change it, it makes you look out of date, doesn't it? So if I just bought this one in 2019, this was the newest one that was available at the time, with not the best specs, it was a base model and everything like that, but it's pretty good spec, it's okay. When I bought this, I thought, yeah, well, it's going to do me for a little while, but I haven't factored into the fact, in my mind that they are, this company with planned obsolescence are going to make me look silly eventually as well, aren't they? Because they're going to make me look like I'm old. Oh, you've got one of them old MacBooks. Oh yeah, they're not as good as the new ones because you want one of the new ones. Yeah, like you see it with iPads, don't you? They completely change the design of them and everything. So let's not get too hung up on planned obsolescence. I just think it's an important point to raise with you because people forget about that thing. So, what do we need to do to produce quality? As I said, when we involve in it, well, to produce good quality products, a firm must identify exactly what customers are looking for. So first of all, what is it that people want? Then we need to specify exactly what the product has to do. Because remember, we can add more, but do we need to do that? Or do we want to be just doing the bare minimum? Make sure these specifications are achieved every time. And that's what it has to do, all right? Not what you want it to do, not what you'd like it to do, but what it has to do, what the core physical things that this product has to do to be able to be classed as successful, to be able to be satisfying, to be able to classed as good quality because it satisfies the needs of the consumer and is fit for purpose. Okay. So how do we do this? Well, the first one, we need to do some market research, don't we? So we have to do some market research to have a look into it, find out, what people are looking for. Maybe we'll do some surveys, maybe we'll do some interviews, maybe we'll have a look at the market and see what other people are doing. Specify exactly what the product has to do. Once we've got that, we can look at the details, can't we? We can look at the sort of findings of what we've done, and we can make a list of things that those products have to achieve, and make sure that these specifications are achieved every time. That's to do with making sure our everything's good, isn't it? And we talk about in a minute in terms of quality chains, but suppliers are good, and then production is good, marketing is good, retail is good, customer satisfaction is going to be good if we can get all those things in order, can't we? All right. So, good quality. Why do we bother with good quality? Well, good quality gives you a couple of benefits, and one of them is better customer satisfaction, means more customers, so we're actually increasing our customer base, really, really good. Higher quality means higher price. Now, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Because, like I said, you can still have very high quality if we take the definition of quality as being satisfies, the customer's requirements and is fit for purpose. Doesn't have to be expensive, but if we get it better quality, if it satisfies it to a larger extent, if really fit for purpose in terms of it goes above and beyond being fit for purpose, it also has extra things like after sales support and all these other things, and making you feel special or whatever it is, brand or something like that. Then we could potentially say that higher quality leads to higher price or equals higher price, or potentially can allow us to charge a higher price, couldn't we? Because it's something which people will be able to pay more for, and it affects that price elasticity of demand, if you remember what we talked about a few streams ago. More customers and higher prices can lead to higher profit. Remember, as long as those costs don't increase when we're doing it, and a lot of the time if we want to do better quality, it tends to increase costs, but yeah. And better image means better competitive advantage. So we want to be thinking about ourselves in comparison to other people in our market. What is our market like? Is there a lot of competitors? Is it a monopolistic thing where this is all we've got? If it's monopolistic in terms of the market, then we need to be thinking about how do we differentiate ourselves, don't we? How do we show how do we make ourselves different? Because if you remember, when we talked about market types, monopolistic competition is where there's lots and lots of people doing very similar products, but the only things that they're doing is they're using brand and quality essentially to try and differentiate themselves significantly from their competitors. What do we talk about poor quality then? Why does quality matter? Well, poor quality leads to mistakes which have to be fixed. That's true, isn't it? So if we have that, if it either doesn't satisfy the consumer or it isn't fit for purpose, you can have a legal issue because things have to be fit for purpose under the Consumer Rights Act. You do remember there's all the Sales of Good Act and stuff like that. That all comes under one now called the Consumer Rights Act. So if you ever have a problem with consumer rights and stuff like that, feel free to go back and have a look at the Consumer Rights Act. It will explain what your rights are. And did you know that you actually have more rights on the internet? If you buy things off the internet, you actually have more rights in terms of giving things back and things like that than you did to begin with, which is an interesting one because a lot of people think it's the opposite, but you don't. You actually have, because you weren't there. The rule is that if you weren't there, you weren't physical you went in a physical presence to actually sign a contract with the person to actually make the purchase there, then you have rights. It's like distance selling regulations and things like that. But anyway, let's not get onto that. But poor quality means wastage. Remember we talked about yesterday about making sure that we want to minimize wastage. Can you remember what we called that? Lean production. Yeah. Can you remember some of the things that lean production had? Kaizen. Yeah. Continuous improvement and making sure that we don't minimize time. What do they call it? Time. What's that one? Time management? Is it called time management? I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm talking about this now. I'm not talking about that one. I'll come back to those. But yeah, if you want to learn about those, go back to yesterday's stream because we were talking about them, or the day before. I think it was the day before. I can't remember. Every day is a man. Every day I'm shuffling. Every day I'm hustling. I just don't know. Anyway. So, which will mean higher costs. We want to minimize. We want to do lean production. We want to minimize waste, don't we? Whether it's physical waste, whether it's a range of different things. Customers will return goods as well, because remember, you're gonna if they don't meet demand. If they don't meet the customer's demands or the satisfaction, it doesn't produce satisfaction. Then we're not going to be able to. You're not going to expect customers to keep the stuff, so they will be returning them. We can lose customer loyalty, but remember the importance of having loyalty here and now. As I said before, it wasn't really an issue, but recently, over the last sort of 20 years, it's become more and more important to keep consumers on top. We don't just want them to buy one MacBook. We want them to buy into the whole ecosystem. We want them to buy a lot of different products. We want them to continuously buy and shout about the brand and things like that as well. The effects of poor quality are expensive. So brand name, image, wastage, sales, all these things that we're losing, all those things that you're not getting, it's really important that we understand the significance of them, of us not getting them essentially, because we can ignore it, but it will be extremely expensive if we are not producing good quality. People won't like the products. People won't buy the products. The name of the product will be just destroyed after a while, and you start to look like a bit of a joke. It's not a good thing. Okay. Okay. So 2 approaches to achieving quality then. All right. So quality control or quality assurance. Now, what is the difference between them? All right. Can you remember? Now, first of all, quality control. When we talk about quality control, when people say there's no quality control here, a quality control system relies on the inspection of products. All right, and there's a couple of weird things involved with quality control, because it assumes defects are inevitable. So it assumes that there is always going to be problems in the production line. There's always going to be problems in the production of a product. It doesn't matter if it's a really expensive product, a really cheap product, whether we make one or whether we make a million. There will be issues with those products, and it says. It's just this frame of mind to think, well, look, although we do want to get things right first time, be reasonable. There's always going to be issues. There will be something that goes wrong, whether it's the quality of something like a supplies or whether it's a human error or something. We just got to admit that there is. And then, so in real terms, it allows mistakes to be made. And I'll explain that in a second. But what we do is at the end of the process, we check over a batch of them, basically. We don't check over every product. We'll check over a batch of them to make sure. So we'll just take them at random to just say, right, that one. Let's have a look at them and see whether they're meeting the demands of what we need for the specification of this product. So let's have a look. It says, goods inspected right at the end of the production process, remember. This isn't during the production process. The faults are found, because there will be faults. There will inevitably be some faults. They're either fixed or thrown away, depending on what the product is. And the issue, and customers will only receive perfect quality goods. Now, if it was as simple as that, you would never even have any issues with quality, would you? So companies that use quality control, you would always have a perfect product every time, which doesn't happen. I'm not saying you always get terrible quality, but you don't always get perfect quality. You do sometimes get a tube of Pringles with a human eye in it. No, you don't usually get that. You don't usually get something so extreme. But you do hear these gruesome stories, don't you, where it's there's been like a chicken that's fallen into a processor or something, and it's there's bits of bone in something or whatever it is. In terms of food production, it can be an issue. Or you hear about issues that are coming out with technology and things like that, where they're overheating or things. If you remember about the Samsung debacle with the Note 7, Samsung Note 7, where they were exploding. Do you remember that? Another issue with batteries. And they had to recall them all. Very, very expensive thing to do. Really, really bad for the company image, and that didn't stop people buying them. And to be honest, didn't stop me buying a Note 8 either. But it was a bit worrying, And Apple have had their own ones with those bendy iPhones they had, if you remember, and the issues that they had with them at the time. So, what's our alternative to this? Well, the alternative is called quality assurance. And quality assurance focuses on prevention, not inspection. So this is the opposite. This is saying that no. Issues aren't inevitable. They're not. It's not a given that there is going to be issues with something. If you allow there to be issues with something, then you are pretty much encouraging issues to be in it. But you are allowing that process. If you use quality assurance, you can guarantee every time that there are no issues, because we make sure there is. Now, designs. So this is all about the process that it involves. So it designs the process to ensure mistakes do not happen. It focuses on getting it right first time. And remember, quality control tries to get it right first time. It's not saying that they does, but they do appreciate the fact there will be issues with it because, if we're making loads and loads of products, inevitably there will be issues with some of them. They're never going to all be perfect. Well, quality assurance says, well, no, every product needs to be absolutely perfect. Now, have a think about this. We're going to have a think about it in a second, but can you think of any industries which this would be applicable for versus not applicable for? Because quality assurance just wouldn't work with some products. It would be needlessly restrictive and very, very expensive and time consuming to do it with all our products. And certain industries lend themselves better to doing them on this. So it says employees need to check their own work regularly, self-checking. Employees can reject work and it requires training. So it can be a little bit more expensive to do. So if we want to do a quality assurance system, we need to be able to be confident that our employees are adequately trained and they're confident enough to be able to refuse work, essentially, to say this isn't good enough quality, we need to refuse this, there's an issue. And if you remember, we talked about yesterday in terms of cell production, when you were able to take treating different parts of the production process, treating each other like internal customers and having a look at the quality that was given to them and things like that. That's quality assurance. Cell production is a brilliant form of quality assurance because they keep checking at every point to make sure that there's no issues with the product. So this is what a quality assurance system looks like. It's, first of all, choose the right suppliers. Why do we care so much about suppliers? Why do we keep on about suppliers so much? Well, suppliers are the core facet of any successful product. They've got to be good quality, and if it is something massive, it's something really expensive, if it's something potentially life risking, if you're making a jumbo jet or something like that, that is going to be the difference between life and death in some respects, isn't it? And it could be like that in other products like mobile phones that explode, or when was it Pret a Manger, they did add a sandwich that didn't have the correct details on it, and someone went on a plane and tragically lost their life because the correct information wasn't put on it. That is a there were other issues. I think there were legal issues with that in terms of what was legally required to put on that stuff. But that is what the issues of not having a quality assurance system can actually cause. And as well, I'm not saying that quality assurance is always perfect. It's not. Depends on how it's implemented and things like that. But it's much more likely to cause a positive outcome. So getting those right suppliers first time is really good. Getting a good relationship with them, maybe doing some kind of just-in-time production, getting the production, getting that connection with them and allowing the good communication and stuff like this. Next one, self-checking by employees. Make sure they're checked, and I think the quality assurance system as well is implemented in colleges, it's implemented in schools and things like that, but I think students struggle with the self-checking thing because they're not confident enough to self-check their work, so they don't know when they're doing something wrong, or if they do, they don't feel confident enough to say it. So you've been in class when people have asked you. I've done it with my class where I've asked people to check each other's work, and they always mumble about blah blah blah, and they get better over time. I've definitely seen my class get better over this year. At the start of the year, they were struggling with doing it, and then after time, they just start thinking, I'm not going to offend anyone by doing it, because you need to tell them what the issues are and reject it. Well, that's not good AO2. No, well, well, that's not good AO1. Well, I don't really understand what you're talking about here. Because once you can highlight the issues, you can fix them, can't you? And you need to be confident about that. So it's not just in production of this, but it's in the production of a lot of things, where you can actually, are you confident enough? So when we say employees reject faulty work, we need the training in order to give the confidence to do this. And as I said, you will have probably experienced that firsthand when a teacher asks you to mark your own work, and you go, well, why am I marking my own work? And not just because you're lazy or whatever, but why am I marking my own work? I'm not an expert. The teacher's the expert. Why are they not doing it? Gives you a little bit more, but we have to create that confidence in the individual, especially when they're producing things, whether it's an exam question or a product, to being able to confidently check their own work and things like that. Okay, so what can we do then? Well, there's a couple of different things we can physically do. And it shows it on this one here. I'm going to show you a couple of these things now. So first of all is teamworking. So teamworking, a team is responsible for the production process, such as the installation of a conservatory. The team is empowered to check the quality of the raw materials, interact during the installation process, and check the quality of the finished product. This implies that responsibility lies with the team members. Really important that, because the teamwork, therefore, can build trust and morale, whilst improving communication between members. It is regarded as a key element of achieving quality. Now, with this one, what we're saying is, if you had a team that went to put a conservatory up, they would check the stuff before they started, and if they realised that something was wrong, then they wouldn't start doing the work. They would say, well, I'm sorry, but this service that we're going to do now isn't going to be good enough. It's not going to be high enough quality. It's not going to satisfy the consumer, or it's not fit for purpose. So we're going to refuse to do this at this time. Now that takes some serious confidence, that to be able to refuse to do refuse to do some work like that, because you can guarantee that the boss isn't going to be happy with you refusing to do work. But you need to take ownership of that and make sure that you are not just holding your own reputation in this, aren't you? You're holding the reputation of the brand as well. You're holding the reputation of everything that comes with it. That's why it's crazy to me when they have like part-time students and people like that working in McDonald's and things like that. I understand why they do it. It's because they're cheap, and I understand that. But from a brand perspective, if you get some student who can't be bothered, or he's hungover from the night before or whatever, they don't really see it as a big important thing in their life, then ideally you want people who are obsessed with the brand. You need people who are really obsessed with it, who want to give the best possible quality to that customer, to because you've got to push that brand, haven't you, essentially, to be better than the rest. Interestingly enough, though, as a side point, what I find is, from my personal experience of being a teacher, is students are actually a hell of a lot more dedicated to their part-time jobs than they are the studies a lot of the time. I think it might be to do with the payment, but I think it's just the expectation on them. They don't want to embarrass themselves. And interestingly enough, because it comes from being at school, and it's like almost like you're at home, or they feel too comfortable with it, and having your friends around you and stuff like that. Whereas at work, I think there's an expectation on it. Not everyone, but it's interesting, because you think students, they get this bad reputation for being lazy. From what I've seen, especially, I don't think most students aren't lazy. I don't think that I think it's a bad, thing that they've got. It's not true. It's not a reflection of them. But also, there's an expectation that low skill, low wage people in terms of students are bad at the part-time jobs because they don't care, and that's not true. They really care. They care more than anything. So, it's another one. I've just noticed as well, we've been dropping some frames again. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's a different time of the day today. So, apologies for that. I'm sorry if I've been sticking. But we're on now, aren't we? So, don't worry. I'll keep an eye on it and things like that. But frustrating. I hate it when it does that. Oh. Anyway, let's keep going. All right. So, next one is product design check-in. So, when we do product design check-in, in addition to monitoring raw materials and components, the total design of the product must also be checked for quality. The failure of the Mercedes A-Class to reach independent test standards is seen as an example of poor design. The problem has since been rectified, but at great cost, both financially and in regard to corporate image. Another example was the Persil powder Persil Power washing powder, which was so powerful that it seemed to shred and dissolve clothes, a serious design problem. Time, effort, and money must be put into product design. So it's about the whole process, isn't it? It's about the It's not about just doing it in the production process. It's about doing it from a range of different times. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're talking about it. So we've talked about these. Now we're going to talk about a couple of the other ones. This when we're talking about recognised standards. So we adhere to recognised standards. One of the things that we do adhere to is like international standards. One of which is the ISO 9000, and this is an international quality assurance sort of standard that people, if you want to have the ISO 9000 sort of seal of approval, then you have to, you have to work by a certain standard. And that can be the speed at which the firm responds to inquiries, the delivery time of goods, customer satisfaction ratings, and the level of wastage as well. Really, really important. It's really frustrating me this now. I'm getting really angry that this is that the connection is going funny again when it doesn't seem to have any connection to anything. It doesn't seem to matter that it can be any time of the day and things like that. And that's really frustrating because I hate it when the thing. So we're approaching 10% drop frames here. Sorry to keep mentioning it. It's just really frustrating for me when I see that. I'm just thinking, is there anything else I can physically do? I'm just what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold the stream. I'm going to hold the stream 1 second. I'm going to have a look if there's anything that I think is doing it. I'll be back 1 second, okay? Okay, I'm back. It doesn't seem to be making any difference, to be honest. I have no idea why it's doing it. We were using the the streaming downstairs as well, but that usually doesn't make an effect. It's really up and down. It's like whoa in terms of going crazy. So it's like really, really good and then really, really bad and in between as well. So I'm just thinking, what do we do now? Because it's so significant. It's just really frustrating when it starts doing this, dropping frames left, right, and centre. Right. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We'll stop at ISO 9000, and I'm going to reset the stream, and then we'll go from there. All right. So just give me a second. I'll just reset the stream, and we'll try again. All right. So I'll see you in a sec. Bye bye.